Hello everybody, welcome to episode 2 of 2 Airheads and a boxer.
Joe Lewis wasn't available today, he's dead, sorry.
Yep. So we're going with this boxer instead. As always, as your host, Jeff, and your co-host, Charles. So this is going to be episode 2. Obviously episode 1 was the introduction. I did an episode 1.5 to do the easy things, to take off the fenders, so we can get access to a lot of the stuff. So today in episode 2...
Please note, I was not here for the easy stuff, he leaves me for the hard stuff.
And I actually explained that in the video, that I would be doing the easy videos and I've been saving you for the hard stuff. So speaking of which, why don't you tell them what we're going to do in episode 2 today?
Well, we're going to prepare to start pulling the motor out. First thing you got to do is get all the fluids out. We're going to go ahead and drain all the fluids out of this motor. We don't know what we're going to find. I just pulled the spark plug and saw that it looks like there might be some water in one of the cylinders. So we may get some milk out of the engine case. We're going to drain the transmission oil, and we're also going to drain the rear end oil while we're at it, get all the fluids out of there, and get it ready for further disassembly.
Okay, so basically today we're going to start with, I guess, which
the engine oil first.
Engine oil first. So we're going to kind of walk through it. We'll tell you what tools you might need to do that. This is some of the basic stuff, obviously. So most of you probably know how to take the nut off for the oil, but we're going to do it anyway. And then we're going to have to take the rear tire off so we can get the transmission fluid out the back.
The differential fluid.
The differential fluid. See, that's why he's here, not me. So we're going to get that out. So basically, right, the first thing we want to do is probably remove the engine so we can start taking it apart and seeing what shape it's in, but you can't do that until you remove all the fluids from the bike, basically. And since this is going to be a complete tear down all the way down to the frame, we figure we might as well start with getting the fluids out so we can move on to the next step.
Yep.
All right? Okay, so first we're going to do, you said engine oil.
Yep.
Engine oil. All right. Hop on down there and give everybody a tutorial on how to do the engine oil.
Okay. As I discovered, this was actually rather pre-loosened, but you need an 8mm Allen wrench or Allen socket. This one was already finger tight, or finger loose in this case.
Now again, this bike had been sitting for about 6 years in our friend's garage, and God knows how many years before that in somebody else's garage, so we don't know if there's going to be anything in here or what it's going to look like, but we want to make sure we get everything out.
And there is nothing in there.
Nothing in there, bone dry, look at that.
Okay, so that is drained.
So theoretically, you would remove that nut, the oil and a normal bike would come pouring out of there, fill up your drain, obviously, and then you put the plug back in for your new oil. So that's where, for all you novices out there who might be watching these videos too, that's where your engine oil is. You got to go all underneath and just remove that one.
And when replacing it, and we will replace it eventually, you want to put a new crush ring in that, crush washer, to keep it from
leaking?
Yeah, keep it from leaking in the future.
Right, it's not a Harley, so we don't want it leaking oil every time we go somewhere.
Right, so next up is the transmission.
All right.
It's right here. It's right above the
do we expect there to be anything in there?
I don't know. The transmission seemed to shift rather smoothly. So we got some
look
oil.
at that. Hey, we got something.
We have oil.
Nice.
And there's that little, every one of these drains has a little crush washer. They look like that. They're either copper or aluminum.
Right.
And they're just designed to literally crush up and seal everything up.
Right.
I'm going to jump up while that drains and grab a paper towel.
And certainly every time you get an old bike like this and you want to kind of freshen it up, and if you weren't doing a big rebuild like this, you always want to most likely change out all the O-rings and all those kind of seals on basically everything that would hold water in, because those are usually the first things to go on bikes that have been sitting around forever. They get dry, they get cracks in them, and then obviously you want to replace those if you can.
Yep. Now, most of your transmission drain pans, drain plugs, are going to have a magnet in them. Actually, a lot of your engine drain plugs nowadays are going to have a magnet in them also. So you want to kind of wipe it off, make sure there's not any large metal chunks stuck to it. That could be indicative of further problems inside. Either someone got a little too happy and started crunching gears without changing the clutch or without engaging the clutch, or other things have decided to go awry. But eventually we're going to be inside this transmission, so we're going to go through everything anyways. This one looked pretty good, had a little bit of metal shavings, but nothing that wouldn't be expected.
Right, I'm actually shocked that there's fluid in there. It doesn't look extremely gross, so.
Well, one thing to remember about gear oil is it's not subject to the carbon that engine oil is. Engine oil is nice and very clear, relatively clear liquid. when you first put it in, within about 30 or 40 miles of running through the motor, you're going to get some carbon buildup in the oil, and it'll turn black. Transmission, you're not going to get all that carbon buildup in there, so you're not going to get a black oil. It's going to continue to be a sort of a honey colored oil. Good news is I didn't see any glitter, which is also a sign that there could be more further transmission issues. So it's about done.
Or that
dripping.
you have a troll inside your engine, one of the two.
So clean off the mating surface. I'm just going to stick that back in there just to keep it from dripping all over this nice garage floor. And again, like I said, we are going to be replacing all the crush washers, but before we put oil back in this, we're going to be going through the transmission, pulling it apart, and making sure that all the shift forks and all the synchros and everything are in good shape. And that's why we're not tightening anything down super tight. All right, on to the rear differential.
Right.
So, old air-cooled BMWs and a lot of the newer air and oil-cooled BMWs are shaft drive. So they have an actual differential, just like your car does. In order to get to the differential fluid, you can get to the differential drain plug right here without pulling the rear tire, but you're probably going to end up with oil all over your rear tire, which is never a good thing. So we're going to pull the rear wheel off.
Size socket you working there?
It's a 21 millimeter.
All right.
Actually, 7/8 because we don't have a 21 millimeter,
That's
but
true.
it
Right.
catches them. And Jeff, I'm actually going to need a hand from you real quick.
All right, great. What you need?
Let me grab a screwdriver. This is the professional way to do it.
Yep, always here.
You'll stick a screwdriver right in there and just keep that from spinning, because the pinch bolts were already loosened on that when we got it. There we go. That breaks it free. There's our nut. There's a washer right there. You don't want to lose that washer. That'll keep you from tearing up the housing. So, let's see where we are on this side over here. As you can see, the rear axle shaft is shouldered. That keeps the rear wheel into the drive splines. And it drops off just like that.
There you go.
And looking at everything in here, rear brakes actually look like they're in good shape since we got the rear brake shoes visible. Spline, it's solid. Doesn't have any lateral or and it doesn't have any play in it, which is actually a good sign. So it looks like something on this was at least taken care of. So now that we've got that out of the way,
We're gonna put this over here in the.
set it right there. Bring our drain pan back. I don't know why I put the cap back in it. And now, back to our 19 millimeter. We're gonna see if there's anything in the differential.
All right. So one big bolt at the bottom, 19 millimeter. Remember, I told you guys in the last video, we're doing this for both novices and deep dive people. So if you're a novice, this video is going to be great. If you're a deep dive person, you're probably bored to hell, but tune in because the big stuff's coming.
There it is, and we're getting a little bit of oil. I don't think either the transmission or the rear differential were full. I think at some point they'd been drained, and this is just the residual that has, over time, worked its way down. But
Good chance.
we're making sure we're getting it all out of there before we...
Yeah, we checked earlier, and the brake reservoir was also empty. So I'm wondering if maybe before that whoever locked it away for an unknown period of time was at least maybe smart enough to drain most of the fluids out of it. There wasn't any real gas in the gas tank. Everything else has been kind of drained. So that's at least smart if you're going to put your bike away for a long time like that.
Yeah,
You know, take
definitely.
all the fluids
Over
out.
time, oil, even just sitting still, will actually turn acidic and can actually eat away, especially aluminum and other metals that are important for keeping it in. So, and there's a good look at that crush washer. Always make sure to pull the old one off. You don't want to double them up because that'll lead to leaks. So, and we're just going to pop this back on real quick because it looks like it's done dripping. over here. There we go. All right. And that's draining all the engine and transmission component fluids.
Wow, that was easier than I thought it was. That was something the novice probably could have done, except I wouldn't know where the bolts and stuff were. So that's why we got you here. And as I spoke about before, obviously, most of you know the brake reservoir is up here for the front brake. This is what our front brake does right now. Nothing, obviously, but that's because it's empty. So whoever had it, I'm gonna think optimistically that they drained it on purpose when they put it away, as opposed to it was just empty on its own when they tried to put it away.
That's some real nice optimism based on the signs of leakage
Yes.
around the master cylinder.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a common, I've seen a lot of people on YouTube talk about that's a common thing, I think, leakage around the cylinder. My other my other /6 over there had that same problem. I had to take the reservoir off and clean it around and repair it. So that seems to be a common issue. All right, is there anything else that we need to drain? Is it basically ready to be taken apart?
It's basically ready to be disassembled. We've already got the fuel tanks off. There's no fuel in the tank. Carburetors are going to be one of the next things we take off before we pull the motor. There shouldn't be any fuel left in the carburetors at this point. As long as it's been sitting, it's probably evaporated. So we're going to go through taking the carburetors off, cleaning them, reassembling them, and when we get it back up and running, we'll go over tuning them also.
Okay.
Fluids, this is not like some Japanese bikes, modern Japanese bikes, where the engine and transmission fluid are mixed. This is very much like it's an old bike. You've got an engine, you've got a transmission, and you've got a rear differential. It's very much like a car. Everything's in a line, so all your rotational forces are in the same direction, just like in a car.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a quick and easy episode here for today. As we're learning, and a lot of you probably know, we set up projects that we're going to do, and then we either can't do them because we don't have the right tool, or we don't have the right space for them or something. So we just kind of change things up at the last minute and figure out what we're going to do. So the next episode is either going to be the rear, maybe it'll be the front forks, maybe it'll be the engine. You'll just have to tune in and find out, because it all depends on whether we can get the right tools and the right setup and the right time off to do it. So we're going to wrap this one up here today. I know it was a short and easy one, but I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. As always, if you want to see more of our videos, click the subscribe button in the corner, click that little bell, and put the notifications on. That way you get the notifications when things come up. In the meantime, this is Jeff and
Charles
for 2 Airheads and a boxer. And we will see you for episode probably either 3 or 2.5 if I can find something easy to do in the meantime. So as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.